Friends, everyone, welcome. Thank you for joining us for this webinar, this workshop experience here with Jim Small from Billion Dollar Coach and Sante Realty. And today we're talking about AI and really how to leverage it. And we're not just kind of spitballing here and throwing cool ideas around. We're talking real systems. We're talking real actionable systems and operational things that you're going to see here and be able to implement in your business today. And so, with no further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Jim and let him take the reins and walk us through all this cool stuff. I'll be here to take questions if you've got anything you want to throw in. I'm here to kind of manage all of that. So, yeah, Jim, thanks for jumping in on this and bringing all the awesomeness. Let you take it away, man.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here again. I'm going to go ahead and share the commercial real estate investing group on Facebook that we're all part of and where we're live casting, I guess. Just let me know that you can see that, Matt, and we'll walk through a live example. Cool. So what I thought we'd do, it's a little bit dangerous here to do stuff live like this. AI is already a challenge live, but I'm going to try something new today, which is kind of walk you through as a real estate investor how I use the posts on the commercial real estate investing Facebook group and really what I would do with AI tools to analyze that and how my team does that. So we have a real estate investment firm run by a great management team, and they're always looking for opportunities, and they look at multiple locations and try to get feeds of things. But one of the places they look consistently is on our Facebook group of commercial real estate investing. And so as I scrolled through this morning when we're recording this here in January of 2026, I came across an industrial property and I thought, you know what? Our team might be interested in that. So I thought what we'll do is we'll just give it a shot and see what this would look like if our team was kind of stumbling upon this listing. In this case, a $1.9 million listing for an industrial distribution flex warehouse in Pasadena, Texas. Now, I have to disclaim I have not pre-vetted this, or I didn't talk to the broker. It's just a public listing. So I'll pre-apologize if I get something wrong or use information that I think is correct, but it's not correct. But I want to just use this as an example, and maybe it'll be a fumble and maybe it'll be a touchdown. We'll see how it goes. But I want to look at this and let's just go through it as if I were an investor looking for this kind of property, and sometimes we are. Now, certainly I'd reach out to Jeff, the broker in this case, and ask questions, but I'm going to just pretend I'm doing this in the middle of the night and I don't want to disturb Jeff and it's, off hours. And so what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to crop with a cropping tool this literal listing on Facebook. And Matt will have to tell me if I don't share the screen properly, but I want to use some of the AI tools to kind of look into this. And so what I would normally do is I'd first take this screen capture. And again, if I'm not talking to the broker to get direct information, I'm going to go over to a new page of perplexity.ai. And so for those of you who haven't used it, Perplexity AI, originally in our teams over the last 3 years, we talked about like it replaces Google search. Now it does so much more. It's got its normal search capabilities. I pay the $20 a month plan, so that's kind of what you're looking at. Then you can do deep research, and that's typically what I find myself doing in Perplexity AI. And then I can even use this thing called Labs to build some pretty cool dashboards and interactive scenario planning. So what I'm simply going to do is I'm going to copy and paste or just paste that screen capture I did from our Facebook group, Commercial Real Estate Investing. And I'm going to say something like this. I usually use the voice system, but for today I'm going to say in typing, I'm interested in exploring purchasing this industrial property in Texas. Do a deep dive on the attractiveness of this property for tenants and find out, making this up as I go, find out the market rent rates I can expect um, as well as whether I can lease it triple net, or say absolute lease it, as an absolute triple net. The longer the lease term, the better. And I would want to minimize vacancy duration. So tell me how and where to find tenants even before I close on the purchase. So this is just, again, a little ad hoc, but it's kind of how I would start. And so using deep research, I'm going to go ahead and fire this off. Now, if I had an OM, I could attach the OM. In this case, I'm just going to use the screen capture, and we'll see what limitations there are with Perplexity AI and the deep research, because it doesn't have rent rolls, it doesn't have T12s, it doesn't have demographics provided to it. So that means it's got to go research it. And again, I'm paying the $20 a month plan. It's not a large investment. And what's cool, if you haven't used Perplexity AI for real estate, it'll actually show you what it's doing. So you got this thinking going on that it shows you, and it's processing, and it even tells you the websites it looks at. And once it's done, it'll say, here are the sources you can dig in. And what I find, and we find more and more in our investment company all the time, and even those that we coach through Billion Dollar Coach, when Perplexity AI is searching, it certainly gets the normal websites we would go to. But sometimes it's digging into things we don't even know exist. And whether that's market data, or it's blogs, or it's Reddit posts, or it's other things, it's been pretty impressive how, without telling it where to go, that it finds some pretty impressive sources. And you'll see here, it even is looking not only on Facebook where we're at and starting, but it's looking on other things that I wouldn't even think of. This, just giving one example, ics.uci, like I wouldn't think of going to that. And as it digs in more and more, it looks at comparables. It's certainly looking at things that we would think to go to, like a LoopNet or CBRE or Commercial Cafe, but it just goes deeper and deeper into sites that we find impressively unknown. And it'll even dig in on things like city feet and warehouse space, and really get this data. And again, launching just a screen capture and one basic prompt to get us started is a pretty low bar to overcome to start doing some deep research. And you see that I asked it for market rent rates. I asked it if we could get a triple net lease in there, what kind of things. And so it came back and it completed 12 thinking steps already. This is in real time, so this isn't recorded. So however many seconds that took, maybe a minute or two. It's got the information. Now, sometimes it gets it wrong, right? So we still need humans to verify these things. It may even have, the acreage wrong or the year built or those things. So we'd want to verify this through due diligence. But presuming that these things are generally correct, then we can keep looking into the deep research and see what it found. And what's really cool is it's finding some things that validate what the broker said. Sometimes it's finding more things than the broker told us, or different, maybe contrarian than the brokers have told us. Again, assuming we're using only listed properties. In this case, obviously we are. But it takes those inputs, and then it's going to go out to all those websites and sources it found and tell us how we can position leasing this. And so if you've got a tenant in tow and you're looking to invest in a property, that property is worth so much more than if you were to buy it vacant. Now, of course, you as the buyer who's looking to add value and lease up a space, that's your value creation. You're not obviously typically going to the listing agent or the broker or the seller and saying, hey, this is easy. You can just lease it up using Perplexity. So we keep this kind of close to the vest. But what's really cool is we can validate without going through CoStar and without looking up appraisals and without dealing with all kinds of complexities. We can get really good information here right away. And you see, it talks about macro trends. It talks about the implications of the macro trends. It goes into target tenant profiles and who we'd want to communicate with, and then outreach to, which of course we would use things like Meta as well as LinkedIn and other sources online to do that. Oftentimes, we'd be hiring a local leasing agent, but we would want to validate what we find with what they tell us and collaborate to get even a better solution together. So we're still very much hands on. Again, I'll call it humans in the loop, but the amount of information we can be empowered with out of the gates just with a simple prompt is really impressive. And so you can see here, I asked it about triple net. It tells me not only can we get triple net in our sub-market, but what the overall market's doing and what particular source. And then you can click on the source here, just like you would those blue links in Google from back in the day. You can look at those and really see the details if you want to read those, but it's giving you the summary here, right? It's like $8 to $16. Well, that's a pretty big range. So we're going to need to dial that in. And then it provides some comparables here in this table. So I'd want to look at those. It gives me ones that are very, very close proximity. And so you want to obviously also make sure that your rent per square foot is annual versus monthly. Of course, for a lot of us, we use annual, but particularly if you come out of California or other places, those are typically quoted on a monthly basis in commercial real estate. So just making sure you're talking like for like. But the amount of information you're seeing here, literally with no background, I didn't tell the system what we're going to do before. It's just incredibly compelling. Oftentimes, if we're raising money for an investment, we'll use this data to communicate with our investors that this is what initially we're looking at before we get detailed feasibility studies or we get an appraisal. We'll use this information. And I'm going to actually use this information to show you other AI tools and what we would do here. So it's going into, I asked it how long of a lease term I could get, but I don't want to have it vacant for a while. And so it's telling us how to, or what our expectations should really be for how we go to market. So it's really done kind of everything I would normally ask a really seasoned and smart analyst to do. But instead of doing it in hours or days for our analysts, this does it in, I guess, minutes. And so when it get down to the bottom, and we'll keep this recording so you can always rewind to look at the details. But when I get down to the bottom, it's going to kind of give me the summary, and it's even oftentimes suggesting, next steps. So when I get down here, it'll literally say, okay, so if you share what you want to purchase it for and what the finance would be, or a pro forma, I can even give you more details. And so I want to actually build out a pro forma with this using a tool I shared on a previous Facebook Live on our group called Shortcut AI. But I'll pause here, Matt, see if you have any clarifications before I use this little button to copy the text and take it over to another AI tool.
This is just beautiful, for anyone who is, working in real estate investing, commercial real estate. This is just, I mean, we're all drooling, of course. I mean, this is just the kind of data and the kind of insight and analysis that, drives everything we do, right? And here it is, just on a silver platter, seemingly. But if you could go scroll up a little bit, I'm not sure exactly where. I think maybe in like section 4 or 5, I think it was.
What were you looking
Um,
for?
there was a table,
Oh,
and not the last table that it showed, and the one before that. There was
okay, I'm
something in
moving
the
all the way
far
back
right
to
column, some insights and analysis it was doing. Not this one, the one prior to it.
four. Okay, we're scrolling up.
Yeah, it does it similarly in there as well. But here, I love this. The takeaway, right? Like this is incredible. So it's building those, I want to just kind of call this out because we were just looking at those, next steps, right? The recommendations from the AI. Well, it's not just giving you this like vanilla kind of like here's, a typical business transaction, next step, right? For this kind of thing. It is actually taking these types of insights, these types of, analytical considerations into account when it's designing that next step, which it already has done, practically before you even see this output come. Um, Amazing stuff. So yeah, shortcut.
Let's do it. So what I did at the bottom, thank you, Matt. I'll just quickly scroll to the bottom. And there's some cool buttons down here. Number one, I can share this. So if it's with my colleagues or it's with an investor, I may actually click this and share it with the broker and just say, here's what we found real quick. If he doesn't see this live, I can download it. What I did is copy it because I want to take it somewhere else. You can always rate these, just gives it feedback. There's some more actions to do other things. I'm most of the time copying or forwarding or downloading if I want to report. And so in this case, I copied it, and I'm going to go first over to Google's Gemini. We did this in the past. And what I want to do here is show you how I would use this. So first of all, I'm going to just put what I copied in here, but I get to pick different tools. Do I want to do more research? Do I want to create a video? Do I want to create images? Do I want to do guided learning? Like there's a whole bunch of things you can do with Google Gemini, and this is a $20 a month plan. Incredible. What I want to do is I'm going to tell it to give me a investment committee memo on the following property acquisition target with detailed recommendations and pricing guidance. And then literally all I'm going to do is I'm going to paste in all that other text that we had. So it just was a quick copy paste. I didn't change it. I didn't format it. I didn't do a bunch of things. I just put it in there. And for this case, I'm just going to, I don't need to do pro. It takes a little longer. Thinking is if it's complex. This isn't super complex. So I'm just going to say, go ahead and do that. Quick investment memorandum prep. And if you're in a, syndicator shop or you're a fund manager, this is something you've got to prepare all the time. And this usually takes a few hours. And as you can see, it's done. So in real time, I've got my investment committee memorandum. It's going over some of the details. It's got what the investment committee would want. It even highlights in bold some of the key points. You see that it's a little off slightly on the asking price because it was 1.9. It's saying it's kind of on target for that. And we'll look at things like return on investment here in a minute. You can even export that to Sheets, which we've shown before. So Google Sheets, just literally click that button, it comes out, and you could then do some analysis if you wanted to. It's got the leasing and recommendations based on all the research that Perplexity AI did in this memo. It's got our execution roadmap of what we would do for due diligence. Obviously, we get a phase one. We would check the roof. These days, we'd probably do that with a drone flyover and thermal imaging. We wouldn't actually go step on the roof, which isn't great in winter in some locations anyways. We'd look at tax assessments. We would look at promoting it in advance once we have it under contract and we're the rightful party. All these kind of things. And we would obviously tell the seller. So here's some mitigations. And it says, do you want me to draft an LOI? And I'm going to say, before drafting an LOI, give me a IRR estimate for LPs that invest in this property with us, assuming we use 60% LTV debt at market rates with no prepayment penalty. You can make that more sophisticated and say yield maintenance or defeasance or whatever, but it's essentially a prepayment penalty. Capital expenditures for TIs and LCs, tenant improvements and leasing commissions. And so now it's going to say, great, we are going to do that, but let's look what we're going to make first on this, assuming these loan to values with the mortgage, this interest rate. By the way, you notice I didn't tell it the interest rate. It went out to the internet and got that for this type of property. I could give it more guidance, like look for a life company, look for a CMBS lender, use a local commercial bank. And then it even suggested a incredibly conservative cap rate expansion, which I rarely see in business cases when they get sent to me to look at. But internally, we either keep cap rates that we acquire at flat, or stress test them and say, what if cap rates go up? There's obviously talk as the recording of this in January 2026 of interest rates going lower, which directly correlates within 18 months of cap rates going lower historically. But build out this model, quick a cash flow based on investment and debt service, and then what we would yield. And so it even assumed a typical fund manager's 2 and 20 structure, which may not be the case given this is a relatively small size asset. We'd probably do a small friends and family syndication and probably get better deal economics, but really compelling cash on cash, even with relatively conservative leverage, and an expanded cap rate for exit. It's got project level IRR above a 20, which is really great. And again, you want to double check this because there's certain assumptions. How long is it vacant? What are the tenant improvements? How much are leasing commissions, et cetera? But this is a pretty compelling deal right out of the gates. And so, if I were seeing this online, I would reach out. I'd probably send an LOI to the broker, Jeff in this case, and say, look, this looks great. Am I going to give him all my research? No, but I'm going to say, like, I really want to buy this property. And the purchase price or the listing price doesn't look half bad. I could even stress test this to say to Gemini, hey, what if I bought it at 1.8 or 1.75? And so I could do that back and forth. Instead, what I'm going to do is say, okay, let's build a prompt to have Shortcut AI build a full underwriting financial model for this acquisition and exit. And what I'm going to say is ask me clarifying questions one at a time to provide the necessary inputs. Now, this step's really important because without doing that, you end up getting a okay or pretty good prompt, but by having it ask you clarifying questions, you're going to get a comprehensive prompt you can literally copy and paste into Shortcut AI that will build a financial model for you. And so what Gemini does, and Claude and Grok and ChatGPT are all very similar, using Gemini 3 for this recording, is says, okay, I'm going to build an institutional grade prompt for Shortcut AI. We're going to move beyond simple assumptions. It's going to be multi-tabbed workbook. Here's a clarifying question I have. And so it says, what's the anticipated closing date? What's the investment horizon? And so what I'm going to say to it, and you can look, it even created some cool shortcuts for commercial real estate if I need to learn more about FP&A. And so what I'm going to say is in the response, we plan to close April 2026. We want to hold the asset for 3 to 4 years max. And then I'd see, are there any other clarifying questions it had? Nope. So that's good. I shoot that off. Normally I go back and forth a few times where it asks more clarifying questions. And this just, again, gets the prompt much, much tighter and better so that we can copy and paste it and don't have to iterate as many times in shortcut.ai. And so it's asking for debt specs. And I'm going to say is in commercial real estate, a 25-year AM is pretty typical. You're not really going to see 30-year AMs. Some CMBS lenders do have those, of course. For this size of an asset, probably unlikely. I'm also going to say closing costs are 3% of purchase price because I'm the buyer, not the seller, so it's relatively low. And then the sponsor promote will be 2 and 20. And so, again, very basic, but you may have a different syndication model, but you can build it all in, which is really cool. When we get to Shortcut AI, not only can I tell it, hey, do a 2% asset management fee and 20% promote or 20% carried interest, if you want to call it that, I can actually say, let me change the asset management fee to 1% or 3%. Let me change the promote or carried interest from 20% to 25% or 30%. I can make it very dynamic in Shortcut AI. So I'll show you that. Now it's asking me about tenant improvements and leasing commissions and any free rent. And I'm going to tell it to make these inputs of TIs, LCs, and CapEx dynamic using variables on an inputs tab, but populate it with market rate numbers to start. So again, if I'm buying across the country and I don't know what things are in Pasadena, Texas or Houston area, but I do know what it is in Phoenix, Arizona, I can say in Phoenix it's this, but I need you to go do a deep research on what it is in Pasadena submarket of Houston MSA. And so it's like, great, here's the comprehensive prompt. So literally all I'm going to do, I'm going to copy this prompt here and take it over to Shortcut AI. And so I can answer more questions, but literally in Shortcut, I just open it up. I do have the paid version. All I'm going to do in this window over here, this is like the LLM window for Shortcut AI. There's other tools like it, but I'm going to use this one for today. And I just copied and pasted. That's all I did. I can pick different actions. Should I plan it? I can interact with it and ask questions. I can set some rules. All I'm going to do is just say, let's go. And it's going to typically come back at first and maybe ask me one or two questions. If I don't answer them, it's quite frankly going to run itself. But this is going to build a model. Now, if you're doing syndications or a one-off investments, building a model specific to an individual asset is time consuming and usually takes a while to error check it and validate things. We're going to do that error checking and validating, but we're going to do it right inside here in this prompt window. And so we don't have to manually do it in Excel. I'd still recommend where the tools are today, whether it's Shortcut AI or another tool like it, you still need to spend the time to verify things. Maybe not look through every formula, but at least tell the LLM of Shortcut AI, hey, look at the formula. And you see now that it's already built out in real time, 4 tabs across the bottom. It's highlighting the inputs tab. It's got a debt schedule, a cash flow schedule, and then a waterfall of how profits go to the investors versus maybe me as the sponsor. And you see on the right now, it's got, do you want to accept these changes and inputs here? And I'm going to say, for sake of time, accept all. It's going to do that. I can always go back and say, I changed my mind, don't have these inputs, or I changed my mind, don't make it variable, or add cash on cash return in addition to internal rate of return. And so I can iterate or modify this just like I would in ChatGPT or Claude. So as this runs, you can also see what it's thinking through, what it's doing on the right. And Matt, I may come back to you just to make sure that everyone's tracking, but the work that it's doing, just like an analyst on your team would do, maybe an analyst that's got a master's in real estate development or a master's, like an MBA would be doing this, circa 2025 and before. Now I can actually check what the logic is and what the Shortcut AI did as my digital employee or virtual assistant to build this model. And I can interact with the model on the tabs here itself. But let me pause, and Matt, let me see if there's any clarifications or questions you've got for me before I keep going.
Right. No. So I mean, this is incredible. I mean, the different tabs. I mean, just think about how much work. I mean, you don't have to think about it. This is a daily exercise for everyone here, right? Is building out these sheets, building out these different, analytical views. And my gosh, this allows you to really step back and get your head out of the weeds of the mechanics of all this, and have a strategic, business perspective that's about profit and growth, and and you're not trying to figure out how to left justify this sell, or I mean, it's not always that minutia, but my gosh. And this really is, to your point, this is operating at an analytical and really an analytical level, similar to somebody with a master's, would in really understanding what you're going for here and what the market requires.
Yeah, I think you make a couple of great points in there that I'll double click on if I can. One is like when we would build models normally in Excel, we'd have to highlight various cells, change whether there were two decimal points or one decimal point. We'd have to change date formatting cell by cell. Literally, I can go into this prompt window on the right and I can say, look at every cell in the whole workbook on every tab. And if there's a currency format, delete the decimal points because we don't care about the cents. We only care about the dollars. And it will, in one shot, just do that for me. So I'm saving not minutes or hours. I'm typically saving days. And if you think an analyst, let's just say an analyst all in might be if they're full time for your company today, maybe I'll just use a number that's not too crazy wrong. If they're $50 an hour and you're building this out, and that's taking 3 days, that's a lot of money versus the 20 or whatever dollars we're spending per month on these tools. So I not only encourage you for speed, but the savings you can get. Now, what we really do is we really actually have our real analysts use these tools. So instead of analysts who are normally creating this from scratch or taking an old model and modifying it, we just say to our analysts, look, the business side. You don't need to be the data inputter or the formula creator. Let's use a tool like Shortcut AI and do this. And so as this finishes building out the cash flow tab and the waterfall tab, let me pause and just reflect on what we've done so far just in this webinar. We did a screen capture of a listing on Facebook. We didn't have any more details. We put it into Perplexity AI, did a deep research dive on, is this property, make sense for us to buy and lease it up and make it as close to triple net as possible and get a good return. And so we found those market dynamics, took it over to Gemini, created an investment memorandum so that we can share it with our executives or our investment committee. We did a deep dive to say, look, we're going to build a prompt and go build a financial model. And now in real time, we're watching the financial model be built with all the thinking. And even you see the words debugging and verifying and checking happening in real time. And now we're going to then next debug this before I take it on over to another tool. We've got some time. We'll take it over and say how we would create a teaser that we would then send out for this to our investors. So if I work with a group of friends and family or a small database of high net worth investors and I'm going to raise money from them, I'd want to send them typically at least a pitch book or a teaser or a presentation. I don't just typically send them a financial model, although we could send that because this will be debugged and thorough in a minute. But I think we can maybe just take a second to maybe do something else on Skywork. And so what I'll do is, in fact, I'll open up Skywork, which is the tool that we really like for presentations. And you can see it does a lot of things. It builds landing pages. Skywork can do documents. It can do designs. It can do videos. Typically, I'm using it in commercial real estate for either offering memorandums or pitch decks for investors. So here's what I want to use in a minute to build that out. But let me
Jim,
pause.
if I can interrupt you real quick on this. This is so for those people who are able to maintain a single line of attention, this is a great next step. It's like let's get into Skywork, but I was just thinking, while Shortcut is running all that, analysis and building out the waterfall, all the stuff, right?
Yeah.
Um, why not go find another property and start doing another one?
You certainly could. I mean, I think it's cool to the first few times to watch, this literally digital employee work for you and build this model and do it the way either in my experience I used to do, and then later we had analysts do it as we grew our commercial real estate investing business. But the amount of times I would have to like go Google what the exact formula is for payments because I didn't remember it because I didn't do it for a few months, or go back and be like, how do you calculate multiple on invested capital and get the right input. And like these things took time. And now it's just bam, it's a prompt. And so yeah, I agree with you, Matt. You can do multiple of these things at the same time. We actually, when you get really sophisticated, you end up having these run overnight in the background for you, using advanced technology like scraping tools and other things. We'll demo those in future for sure. But before we go to Skywork and build the pitch deck, let's say as an example, I'll just show you here, just like a lot of the LLMs, this tool, Shortcut AI, also has some suggestions of, hey, would you like me to do this next? And so for an example here, it says, do you want me to build a dashboard with key metrics, charts, and a waterfall visualization? Now, before I click that, a minute ago, I showed that two tabs were populated, inputs, debt schedule, but cash flow wasn't. Now it fully is built out. And it scrolls to the right so you can see how many months and quarters it's built out. And then the waterfall is built out for the GP or sponsor or syndicator, and then for the LP economics and what the returns would be. So I just want to show you this is all here before I'm going to just literally click on their suggestion of build me a dashboard. And so it's going to build me a dashboard. And while it does that, I may be thinking, okay, what else do I want to put in here? Or what do I want to put into Skywork? Now, one of the cool things I love doing is asking LLMs to give me a prompt. So I'm going to go back to Gemini while this builds the dashboard. We'll come back and look at the dashboard in a minute, but bear with me. I want to go back to Gemini, and I want to say,
I do love watching the build out on the right hand side there in
over on Shortcut.
Shortcut. Oh my gosh, it's and I love watching it check itself and going. This is yeah. Sorry to interrupt there, but
No, it's great.
you were
You
mentioning
make
that
a great
before.
point.
It's like, watching it actually do the work that you and I used to have to slog through to figure
Yeah,
out, like you said, formulas and styling. And it's doing it. And you get to watch it and see the logic and even to, the point of the data, right? How clean is the data? Well, you can see it actually checking the data. I'd noticed a few times in there it was going, this seems a little off. Let me go check
yeah,
the over. Oh, yep, you know what we did wrong. And it's got it. It's got it. It's a lot of confidence in this too,
yeah.
in addition to the speed.
I do find it one really engaging to watch how it's thinking, how it's repairing itself and thinking and iterating. I just want to caution everyone to say, still go back in and I'll show a couple examples where I'll ask it to double check, just like I would a senior analyst. I'd be like, can you double check the IRR? Can you make sure we're calculating correctly? Can you move around some things? I'd still do all that. But in the 1 hour we'll do this Facebook Live and recording is literally days, if not weeks of work in my old firm, that we had done, since I got into the business, and I'm not young anymore. So definitely cool to watch. Let me just toggle the Gemini while this does this, and I'll come back and kind of do the debugging and checking manually. But Matt's right; it does do a lot of it itself and builds things out, and it's going to keep building this dashboard with charts and graphs. And I may have to move them around. It's not going to be flawless in this one prompt where I just literally clicked. I didn't even write the prompt to build a dashboard. So I'll move some things around. I may change some colors, but we'll come back to that while it keeps working. And over here in Gemini, I'm going to say, okay, now build a robust prompt for an investor pitch deck for this property that will be created in Skywork.ai. Again, I'll always try to tell it, ask me any clarifying questions, because quite frankly, it's much smarter than I am. And it's got just a much broader data set to think about of, do you want this in multiple languages? Do you want it in multiple currencies? Do you want it, landscape or portfolio? Like, it's going to think of questions that if you ask me, I'll know the answer, but I don't just intuitively think of the questions. So I'll have it do that. And I'll say first. Now here I didn't say one at a time. So sometimes I get like 20 questions and it's daunting to answer them. But what I'll do here is it said it only has 3 questions, which is great. It's not too daunting. I'm going to answer them, and I'm just going to put 1, 2, 3. So in this case, I'm going to say one, my expertise, will say it's, and this is accurate. So I'm going to say value add repositioning. That could be something else, but that's okay. I'm just going to copy paste that. I'm going to go to item 2. I'm going to say that this is not going to institutions, because it's quite frankly an under a $2 million asset, and there no institution's really going to buy that. And then in the specific hook, I'm going to say that it's, I mean, I like to use multiple of these. So I'm going to say is use scarcity first, then basis. And that's really all I'm going to kind of give it. And it's going to give me the prompt. Now, while it's building the prompt, I could toggle back to shortcut and I could do some other things, but the prompt is done. So no need to toggle. We've got it already. And so it's got the strategy. I can read it and make sure that I agree with the strategy. For now, I'm just literally going to take this prompt and copy it and go over to Skywork in 1 second. So I copy that, and I want to kick off Skywork by just pasting in this. Now, one thing is really cool. Skywork's going to give me a much better result if I actually give it the financial model, which makes sense. And so what I can do here is I can quickly just click export file, and I can export this file. It's going to put it there, and I'm going to then upload it to my Skywork. And so if I just, the model wasn't 100% done, but it's close enough. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to quickly just add the model. And now even Skywork might ask me some clarifying questions, but it's going to be really good at building me a pitch deck. Usually what it asks is, how many slides do you want? Do you want dark background or light background? Basic stuff like that. And it's ingesting the financial model while it's ingesting all of the details from Gemini's prompt to build the deck. So this will come up with a couple of questions. And so while it does that, you see it's connecting itself here on the right. Just like Skywork, it's going to kind of show you how it's thinking through the work. And so you'll see down here, I can have it pause or stop. I can even have create cool things like podcasts. Occasionally we'll create a pitch deck, and then we'll create an audio podcast and send it out in an email to our investors and say, if you want to look at the pitch deck, go ahead. Or if you want to listen to a discussion about why we like this property and what's compelling about it, listen to the attached podcast and send that link. So getting to be kind of multimedia approaches. If you use Notebook LM, which we can do in a minute, that will even build a video for you that you can send a video out. And all of this is done with these $20 tools and done within minutes. And so this says it's got all of the content. And so I think we're good here. Yep. And so it's working on this. And so now it says, okay, what do you want? I want an 11 to 15 page pitch deck. So that's the thing it's asking me. I want a dark background. So I click on that. I want this on a value add strategy is my preference. And Skywork goes a little quickly. So if I don't answer real fast, it kind of just does it for me. So I'm going to let it continue. And now it's going to start building in real time the pitch deck. And like everything else, I can iterate on it. I can edit it and modify it, but it's going to be pretty darn good out of the gates with the financial model input and the Gemini input that I gave it to create something. Now, one thing that's really cool as this is doing this is I can still create really fun graphics. And so I want to show that before we wrap up today's Facebook Live and at the recording. But check this out. It's telling us what it's going to do over here on the right. It's going to analyze financial data. It's going to research market data separate than what I gave it. And then it's going to go out and generate the slides. And then it's going to go to the content. And then it's going to build them out. And now it's going to walk through all the things it's doing. So it told me what it's going to do. If I disagree, I can pause it. I can redirect it. Just like a digital employee, I can still guide and manage it, but it's so good out of the gates. Oftentimes I let it run itself first, and then we edit and modify afterwards.
I want to point something out here too, that this part of the process, um, it's typically handled by any variety of people in a team. A lot of times it's one person doing all these things, but oftentimes this part of the job, this kind of design portion, can often kind of be handed to the marketing team. Right now, how well does the marketing team understand all of the facets that your analyst understands? Well, not nearly as much. And so what's really powerful here is you're bringing not just this design and ability to communicate into the process with designing the deck, but look here, it's actually doing analytical work to make sure that the data, the messaging, the value of everything being proposed here all lines up, and it really makes sense, from a business standpoint, and that it's not just being pitched by the marketing team. And again, I mean, this is, my gosh, this
And
is as far as human beings go, there are not many of us that have really, supreme skills in both of those areas, right? So, man, this is wild.
the other thing too, to your point, Matt, which is really a great one, is we can do so much more with fewer resources. Before I had to wait till my analyst logged in the morning, if I was checking something out on the weekend or at night, or had to wait till the marketing person finish the other project they were doing and then I'll work on my project. So all that coordination and delay you just don't have anymore. And so, the interim step, I guess, was for people in the West to use offshore resources in the Eastern globe or in the Southern Hemisphere. Even that, like we see our team members in Asia just using these tools to be faster, more productive. So I think everything can go quicker and easier than it has in the past, which means there's a lot more fun, creative stuff we can do instead of being, you know, data entry clerks and, people that are just looking up research and some of the things that are more mundane tasks. If we ask our team and they really get the freedom to think about what tasks they enjoy and what they really just feel like they have to do, all the stuff that they really feel like they just have to do, we can automate today and let people focus on the creative and fun and innovative parts of their job, whether they're an analyst or a marketing person. It's really letting us all work in our unique ability better.
Yeah. And if you do have, a dedicated marketing person or team, what are the things that, to your point, they'd rather be doing, right? The things that they know they can truly add value through with their skills and their talent and experience. I'd say probably, a majority of the time they wouldn't answer with building slide decks. Although that is such a key critical function of this, I mean, fundamental process to everything. Wow. To be able to free up that marketing team and their strategic, creativity, to be able to do more bigger and more scalable things with that time and talent.
Yeah, I
Be
couldn't agree
awesome.
with you more. The other thing we see some people, so in Billion Dollar Dot Coach, we obviously coach people in real estate, whether you're in brokerage or you're in investments or you're in credit or you're a service provider. We coach across the board. And what we're seeing is freeing up the time for talented team members to work on those higher value added tasks. So marketing people may not have to spend all their time making pitch decks anymore. Now they're creating investor engagement and referral programs to bring in more capital, or creating more ways to connect with debt providers to get a lower cost of capital if we're an investor, and things like that. So we're really kind of like leveling up all the talent across the organizations and teams that we coach, because the mundane stuff they just don't have to spend the hours and days on anymore. And so it's really surprisingly freeing people up to get to do their most engaging tasks and be really creative and drive more value to the business than ever before.
And and I'll point out more value to the team, right? I mean,
Um,
there's true meaning right there, right? Like that's important. A lot of value that in your team feeling like the work they're doing is meaningful and really brings out their greatest talents.
yeah, real quick, I just want to interrupt. This is asking me to confirm the slide layout because it gave us the slides, and I'm going to basically say, yep, that's good to go. I'll continue, and you'll see now it'll pop up on the screen and show the actual first iteration of slides. Now, I don't want you to think these will be shippable externally without spell check and some alignment and some of those brand validations, but how good it is in the, I don't know, 5 minutes it took us to build this is shocking. And I think again, I'm on the $20 a month plan. I didn't give this a brand brief. I didn't give it our color scheme. I didn't give it our font preference. I didn't do anything other than say, answering those few questions I did. And so if you can, again, as this builds out the slides, think back to this less than an hour experience, found a property, did deep dive intelligence gathering, research on it, built a financial model for it completely from scratch with the dashboard I'll toggle back to in a minute. And now we're building a pitch deck that we can ship out. I'm going to tell you in this 1 hour, I've done literally probably 7 to 10 days worth of work, and I'll be able to be done with it in another 30 minutes to after this call, just validating the financial model, updating any slides we need to move around, maybe an hour on that instead of 30 minutes. But then it's done, and I'm on, as you said earlier, Matt, to the next property while our investors ask us about this property. So you'll see here the slides pop up in just a second, and I'll wait on that just so people can see it before I go back to the dashboard.
Yeah, yeah, and it's I mean, you think about this, right? Like the amount of time that you're spending, doing this right now, this is just one deal, right? Like you've demonstrated, because let me back up. You went into if we go back to the beginning, you went into the Facebook group, you screenshotted one deal
Yep.
and plugged that in as you talked about in the Facebook Live we did, uh, there are some awesome tools that can go and scrape and pull in multiple pieces of information, multiple deals, and you can run this on multiple at the same time. So, I mean, what you just described, this one deal, this would have taken 7 to 10 days.
Mhm.
But what if you're doing 5 or 6 of these
Yeah,
at the same time, which you absolutely can be, should be probably. Um, my gosh, now we're talking weeks and months in a matter of minutes.
agreed.
Amazing.
So here's the quick output. Again, I may not like the color scheme. I could have told it I want blues and grays, or I could have used, different color schemes. I can still change that in here because you can edit each slide. You can edit the whole thing, but it's grabbing market intel, not just the data I copy and pasted in there. It's building its own charts and graphs. It's got these icons it's putting in there. It's getting pictures. I may want to use my own pictures, but it grabbed internet pictures of, the Port of Houston, which is obviously related to this submarket very importantly. It's got traffic, container traffic. It's got how far away it is from various locations. I didn't tell it any of that. It figured out how much of a discount to replacement it's calculating so we can communicate that to our investors. What's the value added blueprint? Oftentimes I'm coming back here and maybe adding a few photos or having some things aligned, but I'm finding that this is just pretty darn compelling. Here's an example where this chart has some things I'd move around. It's got a plus 300%, plus 3%, plus 30%. I would move those because they're kind of floating in a weird spot. But the yield on cost, the equity multiple, all those really well done, really something that our analysts would take a long time working with marketing people to build. I have been told that these presentations, people are building them for 5 grand, sometimes 10 grand, and we just got pretty darn good for $20. So the value proposition's incredible. And I may add a little more to the sponsor track record. Like I think you always want to customize it a little bit, but the tool, like in this case, Skywork, will learn you over time and modify things as you build more and more decks in this tool. It'll then know that for you. And so really cool first shot. I want to go back to shortcut and show you what it did with the dashboard. I can again export this. I'd move things around, right? Like I would move this chart here so it doesn't look like it's floating weird and move things over. But what this built, and I can still do more things that it wants, or I can still do like let's say now double check before we wrap up all calculations to ensure no hard coded numbers um, and no circular references. And so while it does that, I'm looking at these tabs to say, okay, the dashboard's got some great stuff I can use. I might not want it all. I might want it to do something else, but I got a sensitivity analysis. I've got overviews. I've got key returns. I've got circle charts and line charts and pie charts and column charts. I mean, just some pretty cool stuff. And then I can go back and verify my inputs or what I want. The blue is normally where I can put inputs that'll drive the model. The debt schedule, I've got, the amortization, the interest rate, the hold period. My cash flow is month by month. You see like a little minor thing here. I put a comma for the year. I don't need that because it's not a comma. So I would reformat that. So it's not perfect out of the gates. It's got 1 decimal point for the currency. I could do the thing here where I can just say get rid of all decimal points on currency. And then it's got a pretty compelling waterfall where the GP is contributing 10%, LPs are contributing 90%. What's the equity raised? The whole thing. And you could see here, by the way, on the right, it found an issue. It had a hard-coded thing, so it's changed it to an input. It's cleaning it up like I would with an analyst, a human analyst instead of a digital analyst. And so if this gets cleaned up and it corrects something like an IRR or a multiple on invested capital or something, I'll probably go back to Skywork and have it update the pitch deck. But those are very quick changes and very fast things to iterate on. So Matt, I'll maybe pause there as we're running out of time and hand it back over to you and see if there's anything else you want me to share or show on this the demo day.
Yeah, this is incredible. And I want to just point out that this is a system that you are using in your firm. And, I mean, you're not just kind of like going, hey guys, look, this is what you could do. And this is what you're using and actually, getting results with and saving so much time and really getting, beautiful analysis of deals and gosh, the the time and energy that you're spending on moving forward and making the connections and having the conversations and uh, all the negotiations that need to happen, right? You've now removed this minutia, this tedious, stressful, drawn out process from your world, and now you're able to operate at a much higher, much more strategic level, which really is what your billion dollar coach program is
Yeah.
all about. But a nice segue, Matt. But no, I mean that's what we're here and what we're all about, right? Is connecting with people and bringing the expertise, the experience, and the tools and things that we've learned from to share them with others, and all of us grow together.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah.
think you made some really great points there. One thing we might want to consider for a future episode is if all this busy work is so much more efficient than when the value is being created, like reaching out to buyers for properties we're listing or reaching out to investors to bring in capital. How do we do that with AI more efficient, still personalized, important, but now we'll have more time because we're not having to build models and slide decks and research for days and weeks at a time. Maybe we could do a future episode on that because I think there's some really cool tools that I see brokers, listing brokers, using to get better reach, and fund managers and syndicators using similar tools to reach out to investors to help them buy more deals.
Yeah, I mean the market analysis that you're doing on the property, you can do the same market analysis on buyers, investors, sellers, whatever you're trying to get your finger on the pulse of. And then how do I go and take action with that? These tools are really giving us a leg up. So
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely, we should definitely do that.
cool.
Great, great. Man, awesome. Well, we're a minute over our time here, and this has been incredible, Jim. As always, you're rocking some really cutting edge stuff here. But yeah, next time we're gonna jump in and get into some more fun stuff with all of this. And we're doing a Facebook Live in a few weeks here in the group. And so, folks, if you have questions or want to connect with us, be sure you reach out. Jim and I are both here in the group. And until next time, folks, have a fabulous rest of your week, a beautiful weekend, and best wishes to y'all. Thanks so much.
I know.